This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. You and me.
Don Miesen, en amerikaner. Don Miesen er homofil. For vel 30 år siden flyttet han til San Francisco, som hadde ord på seg for å være mer åpen i seksuell sammenheng enn de fleste andre amerikanske byer. Kanskje med New York som eneste unntak. San Francisco har ikke skuffet ham. Don Miesen er ingen rik mann. Penger har egentlig aldri betydd meget for meg, sier han. Han har arbeidet som bokholder, i flyttebyrå, som forsikringsagent. Nå er han butikksjef i en billigbutikk som omsetter brukte varer. Butikken drives til inntekt for de homofile organisasjonene i San Francisco. Et par kvartaler borte har han en leilighet hvor han samler sine homofile venner. Der lever han sitt virkelige liv. Av og til plukker han opp forkommende homofile som trenger et sted å bo. Hos ham får de lov å bli så lenge de vil. Miesens leilighet er et samlingssted. Der kan de være seg selv. Miesen sier han har levet et rikt og lykkelig liv. Men han innrømmer at han har hatt sine svarte stunder med depresjoner. Han har likevel alltid overvunnet dem. I dag er han 54 år gammel, en sterk mann med begge bena på bakken. Han vet hvor han hører hjemme.
Are you happy to be an American?
Yes.
Is this a good society for you?
Yes, right now it certainly is, emphatically.
You are living here as a gay person, and you have had probably some problems in the past in this connection. Has this improved?
Yes.
Can you describe your own early years? Living in Chicago, I believe?
I don't think they were all that much different from just anybody's. I think that the important thing that's happened to me is that my entire adulthood has been spent from the time I became an adult. I became 20 years old, or 19 or 18, just when World War II ended. And in those intervening years, the nature of American society, and I think the nature of world society, has gone through a tremendous expansion and evolution of hope. A period when governments have become more aware and more conscious of human dignity, and people have been willing to open up and express themselves and to flower.
How old were you when you discovered that you were gay?
As soon as I got old enough to discover that I was sexual.
So that is
I knew that from the beginning. When other little boys wanted to experiment with little girls, I still wanted to experiment with little boys.
And what kind of experiences did you have then? Did you meet hostility in any way?
No, it was just the normal kind of sexual experimentation that youngsters do as soon as their parents' backs are turned. Along with everything else.
Did you have problems in the school in Chicago?
No.
Later you entered the army.
Yes.
Did that create any problems for you there?
No. I was already quite accustomed to concealing that part of myself from others, and the structure of Army life makes concealment even more important, and so that was no problem at all, because I had already learned how to conceal myself from other people. All the Army did was open up splendid vistas of opportunity which I was unable to take advantage of.
But you found it necessary, necessary to conceal it.
Oh yes, yes, everybody did.
Why?
Well, even if you were heterosexual, for example, and you went out to the naughty districts of Panama City, you would be arrested by the military police for being in a forbidden area. So we all had to control our sexuality.
Did you get friends there in the Army?
Yes. One of them is still a dear close friend today.
And he is
He's straight.
straight. And did he try
An
to...
unhappily married man.
Unhappily
Two
married.
wives, 3 children.
And did he try to influence you?
Yes. Like a lot of conventional-minded straight young men, he thought that if I had an experience with the right woman, that it would tend to turn me straight. And he eventually procured a right woman for me. She was a very attractive young girl, as a matter of fact, quite sexy. And we lived together for about 3 months. However, it did not turn me straight. And like a lot of straight young men who have that idea about homosexuals, he was, of course, very concerned that being in contact with a homosexual would tend to turn him gay.
You moved at an early age from Chicago to San Francisco. Why did you move to San Francisco?
There were 2 factors that caused that. One was the vague impression that I had of San Francisco as being a very friendly, open place. And
Friendly, open to gays, particularly?
yes, sexually open. And also because my friend lived here, and one summer he invited me. This was I think the first summer after he was out of the military service, and it was a summer, one of my summer holidays from the university. So I came and spent the summer with him in the home of his grandmother in Berkeley, a lovely lady and a lovely home. So I had an almost perfect introduction to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Well, but has San Francisco disappointed you?
No.
What kind of hopes did it meet?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's, you know, one's hopes change. I was very young when I came, and I don't think that my hopes were very clearly defined. I think I was pretty messed up. And I think that one of the symptoms of my being a messed up person was that I did not have any clear hopes. I had a lot of vague longings, but they were not very structured. I was very unsure of myself. So,
have you been mixed up in what we can call gay politics in San Francisco?
Very little. I tend to dislike political personalities.
But you have been certainly a spectator to this.
Yes, and I've known many of the people who have been involved in gay politics in San Francisco.
Don Miesen en av dem som ikke kan fordra politikere, hverken homofile eller andre politikere. Men han har fulgt med som iakttager. Ganske særlig har han fulgt med i homofil politikk gjennom årene. Homofil politikk som har vært særlig viktig i San Francisco.
We've moved from gay people generally here have moved from a position of being rejected and despised and powerless into a position of being accepted, respected, and dealt with pretty fairly.
What have been the main steps in this development?
I think the basic step was the introduction in San Francisco of the idea that homosexuality is not an illness, and it's not an inherently degraded condition, but that it's a condition in which people can accept themselves and rightfully expect other people to do so also.
Would you say that at the time when you arrived here, then it was regarded officially by the politicians in this town, by the government of this town, to be immoral to be homosexual?
Yes, and as an immoral condition, I think we had a kind of rude equality with prostitutes, gamblers, even other politicians. The ones that were out of office.
Not only was it immoral, it was a crime.
It was a crime even?
Yes.
Not to be, never to be, but
No,
to do.
To do.
I see. What kind of practical consequences did it have? This view, that it was immoral to be a gay person.
If you were caught in a criminal act, it could destroy your entire life.
Yes, what about the bars?
Well, they were the only social gathering place for homosexuals, and
Other than private parties.
yeah, and the vast majority, 99% of homosexuals, found it unnecessary and as well as inconvenient to express their homosexuality, except under the most limited circumstances in bed.
Did you have any examples that bars were closed down because they were...
All the bars were closed down in a relatively short period of time. The ordinary life of a gay bar in San Francisco would be usually between 1 and 2 years, 2.5 at absolute maximum, and then the authorities would decide and have assembled their proof that it was a gathering place for homosexuals, and that would be the reason for closing it down. And then the bar owners would sell the license and close up the business.
This was approximately in the beginning of the 60s, is that so? And,
I'm sure it was always that way.
and today?
Well, now there are probably 150 bars, gay bars in San Francisco, and the only reason they close down is economic. They lose their trade to some other bar.
What would happen to a politician who would try to close them down today?
They would be probably be voted out of office.
So this then is an indication of a changed attitude in the population, would you say so?
Yes.
And how would you describe this attitude today?
Well, 30 years ago, homosexuals were objects of contempt, and now they are generally respected as at least deserving of fair treatment.
Is there any problem for a gay person to find a flat, a house to live in San Francisco today?
No, I would say that probably there is a preference among landlords for gay tenants because as long as you don't get the ones that do a lot of partying, the advantages are that you've got, generally speaking, a prosperous household where both of the partners hold down jobs, where there are no children to muck up the walls, and no tricycles left in the hallways for other people to trip over. So I suppose this is a mark of a desirable tenant.
Yeah, it was a middle-class tenant.
How great a part of the population in San Francisco would you regard as gay today?
At least 100,000 and probably 150,000, maybe as much as 200,000. And this is quite a large proportion of a city that's only has a population of about 750,000, I think.
And I suppose this has then resulted in many gay activities. Do you have, for example, something which you would call a gay church?
There are at least 3 specifically gay churches that I'm aware of. There are 2 gay synagogues. There are at least 2 Episcopalian churches here whose, as I understand it, whose parishioners tend to be predominantly gay. There are also significant gay movements within most of the larger mainline churches. The group in the Catholic Church is called Dignity. The group in the Episcopalian Church is called Integrity. There's the group in the Mormon Church is called what? You know, do you remember their name?
No idea.
It's kind of a charming name. And there's Lutherans Concerned. There's a group of even a group of Jews that's trying to reform the Jewish Orthodox Church a little bit on its rejection of homosexuals. And there's a Baptist group, and so on and so on and so on.
Are you a religious man yourself?
No.
Have you probably have been watching this. How has it been difficult to establish such groups inside the various churches?
No, they don't really have any way of preventing it, and they're, you know, a reasonable self-respect as well as common sense politics allows coalitions in even the most autocratic churches to try to speak to issues of concern.
Has anybody tried to prevent it?
They've rejected.
They keep rejecting things. I'm sure that the Mormon group, for example, has no official recognition whatever. There was a Catholic group, and they got that after 2 years of careful preparation and with assistance from fine theologians, was able to present a very finely done position paper, and for discussion only, and the whole thing was swatted down by the Archbishop, and so all the people simply withdrew and formed another committee that would not be under the direct control of the Archdiocese.
Have you any other particular gay groups inside other professions, for example?
Yes, there are associations of gay doctors, of gay attorneys. There's an association of gay engineers. There's an association of gay librarians, gay psychiatrists.
Gay businessmen?
Yeah.
Do you belong to the last one?
No.
As a storekeeper, I mean?
No. Generally speaking, I suppose the attorneys would be divided into two categories. Number one, those good-hearted scholars who are specifically attorneys of constitutional law that are into pursuing test cases to see whether some progress can be made that way, and other attorneys who simply want to provide representation for people who are involved in criminal charges because of their homosexuality or whatever.
Do you have any gay black groups?
Yes. There's one called Black and White Men Together, and that group has apparently touched a very widespread interest, and they have branches all over the country, and I understand in Europe too.
Lou Haidt bor hos Don Miesen I dag. For et år siden kom han til butikken og ville selge alt han hadde, til og med de fleste klærne sine. Har du tenkt å ta livet av deg, spurte Don. Ja, svarte Lou. Kom heller med hjem til meg, sa Don. Der kan du bli så lenge du vil. Det gjorde Lou, og der lever han ennå.
Tell me, would you say that you have had a rich life, Don?
Very, very, both emotionally and intellectually, and
A happy life?
yes,
With good friends?
yes.
You are living here with your two friends here in the same house, in the same flat. Are you living here as a family? Do you feel like being a family?
Considering some families that I have known, I hesitate to answer that.
In which sense do you mean that?
I don't know. Some families are just dreadful places to live,
Yeah.
and other families are wonderful. I just try to live good. and I want the people around me to be happy, because that's the only way you get the best from people. So is that a family?
Not long ago we learned about a new illness which has struck particularly the gay society, that is AIDS. Has this changed your life in any way?
In my life? I'm an intransigent kind of person, and it has not changed my life. Sex is just too important to me. It's too important a pleasure. It's too important a way of expressing my being, and I have not had any information about AIDS that has impressed me enough to cause me to want to give up any of my sex life.
But it certainly has had influence on many other gay people.
Yes.
Can you describe that?
Well, they have changed from patterns of promiscuous and multiple sex contacts with a lot of exchange of body fluids as the body fluids. What a dreadful, dreadful expression. To chastity, or being monogamous, or having very little sex contact, and a lot of people that like the idea of orgiastic sex have gone into group masturbation scenes where people don't touch one another. I think on the one hand, the idea of having it has challenged a lot of people, and ordinary individuals, and also a lot of professional people to explore the idea of sexuality, to see how the values that we express in sexuality can be maintained, upheld, and experienced without physical contact. A lot of the function of sex is to reassure people that we're okay, to provide affection, a kind of emotional security, to provide heightened excitement, and so on. And those things can all be done in other ways too.
I understand that this question, how to react on AIDS, has split the gay community in San Francisco. Can you describe that?
Your question triggers off a lot of feelings within me about other problems. In general, straight or gay, I think politicians tend to be a contemptible bunch, and the split in the gay community, as it is generally perceived by individuals and in the media, is a matter of politicians vying for influence, and I sure wish that people would stop trying to make political careers off of my personal experiences. Certainly it's a health issue. I just don't want it used for political purposes. I would like to have some hard information about who's doing research and how effective that research is. One of the good things that might come out of AIDS is quite possibly, since so much money is going into this, since it is a viral problem, we might get some just marvelous scientific breakthroughs on viruses, and from there into cancer. Who knows? You know, and it may very well, if something like that could happen, which it very well could. Who knows? Perhaps the gay AIDS experience will turn out to be the savior of mankind by way of discovering a new cure for cancer that would be effective.
You doesn't seem to have much respect for politicians, Don. Tell me, did you vote in 1980?
Yes.
For whom?
I voted against Reagan. I specifically registered for the Republican Party so that I could try to get somebody else to be their candidate. I failed.
So, but in November 1980, for whom did you vote?
Who was the other fellow running? I forgot now.
Jimmy Carter was there.
Yes.
You voted for him?
Yes.
For whom will you vote in 1984?
For whoever is on the Democratic ticket.
And this is more against Reagan than for the Democrats?
Yes. Our neighborhood here is sort of interesting. There are a lot of poor people, a lot of left-wing political people, a lot of lesbians, a lot of poor Central Americans and Chicanos. This is Amelia's here is the city's biggest lesbian bar. It's right across the alley from our store. As the saying goes, we run back and forth and borrow cups of detergent from one another. And right around the corner here is the Women's Building, which is a large office building with probably 30 or 40 offices in it, and at least 30 or 40 different lesbian and feminist groups of different sorts headquartered there. There are a lot of gay bars, bookstores, coffee shops, and other places developing in this part of town, which seems to be in the process of being in transition from being a very poor neighborhood to a very lively bohemian one.
Don Miesen vandrer videre. Han har funnet sin livsform. Han føler seg trygg i den. Han lar seg ikke lenger tråkke på, lar seg ikke skubbe til side. Han har søkt respekt og har funnet det i dagens San Francisco.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.